Chapter 1. Posture Play. Exploring the spine. Lie on your back on a flat surface with your feet flat on the floor in line with the pelvic bones. Check the areas of the spine that should, without effort, ideally be supported by the floor. These points are the backside of the sacrum and pelvis, S2, the backside of the solar plexus, T8, the base of the head, occipital base, the tip of the tailbone, and then gently sink the femurs into the hip sockets. The golden rule for preparing for any successful exercise program: when the bones cannot yet reach the floor, level the floor to the bones. Ease in neutral alignment is accomplished by adding support and eliminating gaps. Smart Spine pillowing is a message to support and increase body and alignment awareness. This stimulates the electrical signals to the brain via proprio and thermoreceptors into new positional awareness. Following this rule assures functional alignment support and programs the release of the tight musculature due to poor postural and occupational habits. Creating supports from head to tail leaves no room for movement fail. Let's look at the various typical alignment flaws. Number 1. The head shear forward or jutting chin. This head posture needs to be supported and adjusted from the entire shoulder girdle in more severe cases, or just from the base of the head with just a little forward head position. As a general postural guideline, lying down the chin should never be higher than the forehead. Here's the Smart Spine solution for the forward head shear. Here we are using the Smart Spine and the Pilates posturing pillow. The client is pillowed forward and supported from the shoulder girdle up. The cervical disc may be used for support for the base of the head, fine-tuning the head position. Your dynamic alignment cue: the sternum falls away from the chin base as the base of the head reaches away from the mid-back. Let's look at the protruding rib cage or rib flare. This posture often indicates shortness in the muscles alongside the spine. There is too much compression, the spine lacks mobility and optimal length. There is little access to deep abdominal strength. This posture also reflects shallow breathing patterns with too much pelvic floor pressure when forced during exercise. Here's the Smart Spine solution for the protruding rib cage. Using the Smart Spine and the Pilates posturing pillow, the client is pillowed forward from the mid-shoulder girdle. To melt and release the sternum, we are using a sacral wedge. Place the Smart Spine sacral wedge on the sternum, the tip pointing away from the chin base, reminding the body, with the assistance of the warmth, to release the chest and open the mid-back. The posterior pelvic tilt is yet another compensation flaw. There is no space between the floor and the lower back. There is lack of creasing or fold in the hip region, and the chin often reflects a position higher than the forehead. The posterior pelvic tilt may present itself in two different postures: the flat back position versus the sway back position. Either posture will reflect slightly different muscular compensations. Here are our Smart Spine solutions for the posterior pelvic tilt posture. For alignment support of the head and neck, use the Smart Spine head and neck cradle, specially designed in a donut shape, which allows for precision in fine-tuning in alignment. For the release of the hips and the gluteal muscles, or butt gripping, place the base of the SmartSpine Seiko wedge under the sit bones and allow the sit bones to meet the wedge. For melting the hips, place the SmartSpine horizontally over the knees to feel the femurs sink in the hip socket. Gently draw the knees towards the hip sockets, as the femur heads love to live close to the spine. And last but not least, the anterior pelvic tilt. Lying on the back, the pelvis will show an anterior pelvic tilt with too much space between the lumbar spine and the floor. Even the thoracic spine may be lifted. Often a flared ribcage will be present with a shortening of the back muscles. The chin juts forward with the head tilted back. The anterior pelvic tilt may present itself in two different postures. The anterior pelvic tilt with a lordotic curvature in the lumbar spine versus the anterior pelvic tilt with a marked kyphosis. Either posture will reflect slightly different muscular compensations. Here are the SmartSpine solutions for the anterior pelvic tilt. Pillow the upper back and head forward so that the thoracic release is achieved through slight flexion of the upper back and thorax. For pelvic and lumbar spine organization, adjust the pelvis in a neutral position and fill the residual lumbar space in with the SmartSpine Seiko wedge for optimal lumbar alignment support. For cervical support, position the head and neck cradle to fine-tune the alignment. For hip flexor release, a warmed SmartSpine may be placed across the hip crease. This also contributes to recruiting the deep abdominals.